Let's now start to really create our base template. So the template upon which all other templates will be based on later. So basically, we will be converting a regular HTML file that is in the starter files to a Pug template. So basically, we're going to start creating the layout of this page. So this header here and also the footer. Okay, not the content, of course, because that we will then build more dynamically a bit later. Okay, but we will leave everything ready so that we can then inject all of this real content into that overall base template. So let's do that now. And let's actually start by getting rid of all of this content that we had here. So this was really just to show you the different features of Pug. And now let's open this overview.html file so that we can basically convert it here to Pug. Okay, so that was the original HTML file that I created to design the overview page that we just saw dynamically rendered. Okay, so this is what we have in the head. And actually, let's go ahead and copy this entire code so that we can then convert what's missing here. Okay, so the content of our title is this. And so let's copy it and then get rid. And so this is the content of the main page, right? Then we already have the favicon and also the style. So what we're missing is basically this stuff here for responsive web development and also this Google Fonts link. Okay, so starting with that. So it's still a style sheet. And then let's just grab this reference and replace it with single quotes. Okay, then I also want to define these two. So let's cut them here. And let's simply convert whatever we have here. All right. Oh, and also the single quotes. Okay. Let's actually put this one at the end. And so that is our head for our template. Next up, let's take a look at the header. Okay. So basically we have this whole element here, which is the header. So that dark gray bar that you saw there at the top of the page. And so let's copy this and put it right here. So that's a lot of code, and you will see how little code it will actually be later once we translate this to Pug. Okay? And here, let's now actually put a visible comment into our HTML saying header. Okay? And so actually that's without the dash. So in VS Code, when I hit the comment shortcut, then it automatically creates a Pug comment. But here I really just want one comment that's also visible in the HTML output. So anyway, let's now create the header element and let's see what we have here. So we have header with the class of header. And all we need to do to specify a class is dot and then the class name. So header again. Then in there we have an element nav, and so indentation, and then nav dot nav, which is the class name here again, and then we also have another class name, and so another dot, and that's it. So nav tours. So if you're familiar a bit with CSS architecture, maybe you're seeing that I'm using the BEM architecture, and so nav is the block, and then here this tours is a modifier. And here, these underscore means that this is a block, or actually an element. So block, element, and modifier. Okay, so that's not really important, but I just wanted to mention it. Anyway, inside of that navigation, we have a link element. So A, with the class of nav underscore underscore L. Then here we have this href attribute, and so remember for that we use parentheses and then href and set it to nothing. So basically that's what this hash here means. And then simply the content. So all tours. Next up we have this form here, but actually we're not going to implement that at this point. So let's get rid of it. Alright, and so this is our navigation. So this code here is basically equivalent to this. And so next up we have this header logo. So new line, but one level back in the indentation so that it's on the same level as the navigation. So just as it is here, right? Now when it's a div, we don't even have to say div dot header logo in this case. So when it's a div, which is kind of the standard block element in HTML, all we need is the dot. And then that will automatically create a div element. Then in there we have this image. And so that of course needs a couple of attributes, which is first the source. So image, logo, white.png, and then also the alternative text. Okay. Next up we have this other navigation here. And so again, that's on the same level as the first navigation and this div. So one level back in the indentation and create a new nav element with the class nav and the class nav user. Then in there, there's a link very similar to this one. So let's just copy it to save ourselves some time. And then here it says my bookings. Then another one. And actually, let's just copy it again, with the difference that it doesn't have this content, but instead it has some more content inside of it. So this. So very easy again. Image with the source .jpg. And it also has a class name. So let's add it here with the dot. So nav user image. And then simply a span saying Jonas. And as you can see, this is actually going to be the dynamic part of this header. And so actually all of this here will be commented out in the beginning. Okay. But anyway, let's now finish coding up this part here. So basically these two buttons, so the login button and the sign up button. So of course you will not have the login and the sign up button at the same time of having this user navigation here. So my bookings and then the name of the user. Okay, but again, let's put that here for now and then comment out what we don't need. So button, nav element, and also nav element, and then the modifier CTA for sign up. And actually there's also one before that for login, right? So that's this one. Okay, and so that's actually it. So that's the header, and you see that this code here is equivalent to all of this what we have here, which looks a lot more confusing if you ask me at least. So delete that. And so as I said, this user navigation here, this part is only going to be available when someone is logged in. And so for now, let's completely comment all of this out. All right. So next up, we have the content. And so let's add another comment here. And in our HTML, actually all that we're going to add now is this section here with the class of overview. Because then in there is where we have all of these content cards, which again, for now, we will not include there. So again, what we're doing now is really just the skeleton, so to say. All right, so section.overview. Overview. And for now, let's simply put an h1 here with the name of the tour that's coming in as a variable. Okay, and of course, this section here needs to be at the same level as this header. Great. So all we're missing now is the footer at the end of the page. So let's go there. And here we go. Let's grab all of this. And this should actually be a footer element, not just a regular div. So a footer element with the class of footer, then a div with the class of footer logo. And so again, I don't even need to specify the div element. Then we have an image here. .png. And so I hope that typing all of this out by yourself, by hand basically, makes you keep this knowledge on how all of this works a bit better. Okay, so this is Alt, and now this footer navigation. So an unordered list. And now in there, we have a couple of list item elements. So list item, and then in there, there is a link in each of them. So A with the href of nowhere, basically. And then about us. Now here in this situation, needing this extra line only for specifying this li is not really ideal. And so what we can do here is to use a colon like this, and then basically put it all on the same line. And so this will then still work as if there was a new line with an indentation, but basically allowing us to do it all on the same line. Okay. Then for some reason the syntax highlighting stops working, but well, that's not that important. So download the applications, become a guide, careers, and that's actually it. Next up, we have this footer, copyright, and so in here we have just a bunch of text. So let's specify the copyright symbol here, and that's by Jonas Schmettmann. So that's me, and just like in all my other courses, I want you to know that you are free to basically use this project for yourself. So basically to put it in your portfolio or to show anyone that you want that you built this project in my course. Now what you cannot do is to create your own course based on this project. And it's sad that I even have to say this, but of course there have been people who used my project basically to put some free courses on YouTube where they copied my projects one by one. Okay, so let me just write that out here. For your own purposes, except producing, of course, your own courses or tutorials. Okay, and that's actually it. All right, so that is the translation of the skeleton, basically, that we have here, of course, accepting the content. Okay, so we don't longer need that. And just to finish, let's take a quick look. And indeed, here goes our content. Now this here looks a bit out of place because this copyright text here is so long. So this footer navigation basically. But since that is a Flex container, we should be able to fix that with justify content Flex end. Yeah, this one. Okay. And don't worry if you're not familiar with CSS or even Flexbox. This is just to simply visually fix this small problem that we had here. So let's search for footer here. So here we are. Fix that here. And if we now reload, yeah, then we're good. Perfect.